Welcome back to the Level Up and Live podcast, where we help business owners design a life they don't grow to hate without sacrificing their health, relationships, or faith. We do it through clarity, accountability, support, guidance, and real community. Today's guest is proof that purpose can be built from pain. Nicole West is the powerhouse behind Brightside Construction, a woman-owned, family-run general contracting company rooted in faith, resilience, and doing what's right. She's not just building homes in commercial spaces. She's restoring trust and hope in the construction world, one relationship at a time. Nicole West, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
All right, well, so Nicole, take us back. And I love asking business owners and entrepreneurs this. What inspired you to start Brightside Construction, and how did that journey unfold for you through where you are today?
So Sean, I used to be in construction when I was a teenager, and I always had troubles with unequal pay. There's also, you have people that treat you like you're beneath them because I'm a woman and they think that I'm not as strong as they are. One of the issues I had was I even had a boss tell me that he couldn't hire me before because I would be a distraction to his workers because I was too pretty. And unfortunately, I was like, well, if that's a problem, then you might need to have new workers. So I ended up leaving construction and went into sales for a while, which I did really great at. I love people. But I was just miserable sitting down all the time on the phones. I was like, man, I love people in person. Fast forward, my husband opened his business, Brightside Electric LLC. He's been open for about 6 years now. And man, we've had so many horrific stories of people getting just completely pushed over by other contractors, whether it be by pricing or even botched work that has destroyed their home and they had to take out insurance policies. Well, about 3 years ago, we had, or actually 4 years ago, we had our AC unit go out and we were hot. I mean, it was middle of summer, burning up, and we called an HVAC company. We were in a tight spot because we just opened our business and we were still trying to get it going after COVID. And man, I'll tell you, this guy came out. He was several $1,000s cheaper than all the other contractors. He even on good faith allowed us to pay it out, which we were able to pay it out, God bless, in about a month or two. But it really resonated with me. So last year, me and my husband were sitting down and I was like, man, I really wish that like all of our customers knew the great contractors that we know so they don't have to go through that. So if they're going through a hard time, we can help them with payments, or we can help them get into a position to where they can get what they need. You know, I was like, man, I really wish that this person knew all of these people so they don't get really great electrical service, but really poor plumbing service. And finally, we were just like, well, why don't we do it? We can start a general contracting company and pull all these people together and really create a great community of trustworthy people. So that's what inspired it.
Man, that is a beautiful story. And honestly, my entrepreneur mindset is like, I'm relating to I know our listeners and audience are too. It's like, well, wait a minute. You know, people do business with who they know, like, and trust. And obviously, when I met you the first time at the networking event before we started recording the episode today, I told you right away, you can, within seconds, you know if you're going to like that person or not. And you were personable, you were smiling, you were positive, you had a great attitude, and you embodied everything that you just said. And for me, when you do business, it's like, who do you trust nowadays to do business with? And what I'm hearing you say is you're connecting all those dots for people, you to be the go-to source in the construction company and the contracting company to be able to plug those people into the different types of industries if they need. And that's a beautiful place to be. I love that.
Thank you.
So as a local Conroe grad here locally in Montgomery County, how has your roots and upbringing shaped your mindset and values as a business owner? So,
funny story, Sean. I actually never graduated. I actually had a very hard home life. I was raised by my grandmother, my great grandmother, my great aunt. Unfortunately, all three of them passed away in a car accident when I was 11. So I experienced heavy loss at a very young age. Unfortunately, my mother and my father were going through heavy addiction at the time. So I was really tossed between family member to family member and ended up getting into drugs at a very young age. With that being said, I ended up dropping out.
Yeah.
I ended up
Wow.
having kids very early. And really, the Lord grabbed a hold of me. I was in a very dark place. I didn't love myself. I didn't love people around me. And I think it was just because as a child, I grew up craving the kind of love that I really needed, and I couldn't find it. So I was just angry. So after the Lord grabbed
Yes.
a hold of me, he really changed my life. I'm 10 years sober now, praise God. And man, I'll tell you what, Sean, I just want to
Wow.
love people the way that I needed to be loved. My mother is now sober. She's doing great. My father, unfortunately, he's still struggling with his
Mm.
addiction, but the Lord loves him and he loves the Lord. And I know that hope is never lost. So how it really shaped me is I
Mm.
just want people to be treated the way that I wanted to be treated. I grew up poor at some aspects in my life. I was even homeless at one point in downtown Conroe for a little over a year. And I'll tell you, the love and kindness
Wow.
of strangers is what really put me where I'm at now. It wasn't really the people that I knew
Mm.
very well. It was the people I met on the streets, the police officers that actually cared, the judges that actually cared in my life, and I really just want to create that
Wow.
community. I want to be able to,
Mm.
when I walk into someone's home and I see someone that's like really upset, like, man, my plumbing keeps going out. I want them to be able to trust me and knowing that I'm here to make sure that your stuff gets fixed, because as a homeowner, I understand how hard things are and how expensive things are. I've been on the streets before. I've been in broken down homes before. And I just want people to be able to get their dream home, to get where they need to be, and to be able to survive without having to worry about the ugliness of the world when really there's so much beauty. So I just want to bring Jesus to people and treat them with love and respect like I
Mm.
really needed when I was younger.
Well, you're definitely doing that. And then at such an early age, and I really appreciate you being vulnerable there and sharing that and opening up, because I know our listeners and viewers, we all face these different trials and tribulations and struggles through our life, but it doesn't have to be where we end up. You've used it as a leverage and as a tool and to reflect on, and it's who you become in that journey. And you're using that to become the businesswoman and the leader that you are today by giving back and helping those through that journey as well, because we're best equipped to help the people we once were.
Absolutely.
And I see you doing that, and I see you living that out. And I love that because, authentically, and I've told you this before we started recording the podcast, is I don't normally just invite just anybody to come on the podcast and be a guest. It has to really be somebody that's, I call it the pain cave, that have really experienced struggles, trials and tribulations and adversity. And you've done all these things at such a young age. And you are now helping others, equipping, building that bridge for other people, whether that's customers, your family. You're embodying that. You'd said your mom has been sober because you started and you're being a role model. And I know I got to meet your young son, Kason, right?
Mhm.
He's showing up to the events and plugging himself in and asking questions. So you are leading by example, and you're an inspiration to me, Nicole.
Oh, thank you, Sean.
In short 10 minutes. Yeah, I'm grateful for you. Rolling into construction, it's obviously a male-dominated space from my experience and what you hear about construction. What challenges have you faced stepping into leadership in that field, and how have you held your ground with confidence leading through that?
Ooh, I have come across a lot. I've even had issues with a couple of subcontractors when I first started, like trying to really introduce myself, trying to find like really great, reputable people. And it's weird because I guess because I'm super nice that they think that I don't have a spine, and I don't mean that silly, but you have to be very, very straightforward and be like, look, you can't, this has to be done this way. So to go from like very kind-hearted to like very stern, I have to remind myself that, you know, that it's okay for me to put my foot down. So I've had a lot of back and forth, with different companies, really trying to like get out there and be like, look, like I'm not here to play games. I may be nice and sweet, but I'm here to help people. And this is a serious matter. We need trustworthy people. And through that experience, I was actually able to find amazing subcontractors that were just phenomenal. And honestly, when it came to holding my ground, my husband was my backbone. My husband, Justin, I mean, I wouldn't have got this far this fast if it wasn't for him, because he's really pushed me every point of the way. Like, hey, you've got this. Like, I know you do. And having a partner that just loves me has been amazing. So now it's getting to the point where I'm like, I don't need him. I want him, which is so great, because now I have my sense of individuality with my business. So I'm super excited about that. But he's really been my strong suit during all of the growth.
I love that you bring that up with spouse, because it's not often talked about on the podcast and in leadership and in even business ownership, because it is very challenging. It's not for the faint of heart. The statistics don't lie. It's very tough in business and entrepreneur, especially in a male dominated space. And the fact that you just shared that with having a supporting spouse, I think is one of the top three key components to winning in entrepreneurship.
Absolutely.
For the long run. And to dive even deeper on that, for me, in my own experience and being in business over a decade now, is if it wasn't for my wife as well, like Justin is to you, then man, I don't think I am. I know I'm not in where I am today, especially with the support, the love, the grace, and the compassion. Has it always been rainbows and sunshines? Absolutely not. But here's the thing, and you know this, Nicole. How you do one thing is how you do everything. So how you lead in business, or vice versa, how you lead in your personal life is going to transition in over to business. Absolutely. So why not run those congruent in alignment? And that's what I'm a big believer in. And that's what I'm a big believer in our Creator working through us and being a child of God, is align this with your life, business and personal. It doesn't have to be separate. Like, if you design the life that you want to live without sacrificing health, relationships, and spirituality, you can run all these congruent. And that's what I'm hearing you say with having the support with Justin. That's
absolutely. Awesome. 100%. I think it's important for people to understand that you don't have to do it alone. And some people don't have spouses. There's always that person, whether even your children. My children have been so supportive. And I am super grateful for my whole family. I mean, really, my immediate, my babies, my husband, I mean, they've just been there like, Mom, you got this. Like, this is great. This is a great idea. So just having that heart of it was just really awesome for me. So I'm very blessed to have what I have.
And they're blessed to have you, Nicole, in their life, leading by example and being that role model, because it's caught, not taught. And that's what you're doing in your life.
Thank you.
And when I met you at the networking event about a couple months ago, I was shocked. I had walked in, there was probably 15 or 20 other emerging leaders and business owners in this event. And immediately you came up to me and you had this 4'9", maybe 5 foot, blonde hair, young boy right next to you. And he was just sitting there, super poised, super humble. And normally I'm the one asking the questions, but he immediately said, well, what do you do? What do you do? And looked at me, put his hands like a professional would in front of him, going, okay, spotlight's on you, brother. I'm like, whoa. So the reason I bring that up, I love that you brought him. I don't know the why behind that, but I'm curious for our listeners and audience as well, because a lot of times we think as entrepreneurs and business owners, it's like, okay, my kids are over here, they're over here doing their thing. But how old is Kason?
He's 14.
14. So you plugged him into that networking event, and what he's going to learn and take away from that, just in that, one time. I'm curious on your thoughts behind that and the why behind wanting to plug your son into that environment.
Yeah, absolutely. So I really think it's very important for people to understand that every child is different. I have other children, my girls, they thrive in school. They're really great. You know, my youngest is super academically smart. My middle child, Piper, she's got like an athletic sport to her. My son, on the other hand, he was very modest, for lack of better words, and didn't really thrive in the school district. In fact, he was bullied very bad because he was very kind. So we ended up pulling him out, and I was very concerned about his level of self-confidence had really depleted. And my son's a very goofy, very nice and kind-hearted person. And to see him struggling so hard was very difficult for me. So I pulled him out and I was like, you know what? I think it's so important if I'm pulling him that not only do we go over academics, but we go over how to live life in general. So I was like, why not him come to work with me? Eventually, if he wants to take over the company, he can. Like, praise God that we'd be able to do that. And what better way to learn what he wants to be than to really get into it? So I started bringing him. And Sean, I'll tell you, this past year, my son has flourished. He has turned into something oh my God, I'm just in awe of. I really am. He's like a sponge, and he's so kind and honest and loving and is so quick to help people. And then now he's eager to learn. He's not in a environment where he feels threatened or scared or uncomfortable. He's like, man, these people are awesome. And like, now he wants to be a plumber, and now he wants to know about other people. Like, he's flourished. But that's really what made me want to bring him in, is I wanted him to have social interaction and be able to expand his mind and not be withheld to just textbooks at home. I wanted to make sure that pulling him out of school was the positive thing to do.
What would you, and I love that, and I agree with that, and I feel like I would have the same mindset. We don't have kids, but I feel like I would be very passionate behind that and what you just shared. But for like a lot of our emerging leaders and business owners, they have kids. What would be that one tip or advice that if they're experiencing the same thing, whether that's bulliness or they're, maybe they've got, they're not doing so well in school. And obviously that was a big decision for you to do that.
Yeah.
Is there any tips or advice that you would give those parents or leaders that are going through the same thing that you guys went through?
Absolutely. If you have the means to pull your kid out and homeschool them, do it 100%. My girls don't want to be homeschooled. They really flourish and thrive in the school district. But my son didn't. And I am so blessed to be able to be in a position to pull him out. And really, I was a little nervous about bringing him on certain jobs because I didn't want people to feel some type of way about a child being there. But then I thought, well, what better way to be family oriented with my family? So really just setting up an environment to where he can learn, not only by listening and talking to people, but he also helps us build porches and put in flooring and does demolition. So he's doing physical exercises. He's doing geometry by measuring. And then when I'm going down the road and I have to text or email somebody, he's usually the one that's doing it for me. So he's highly dyslexic. And by doing this, it was able to bump up his spelling, get him to understand vocabulary better. And he's really it's done great for him. So I plugged him in and I was like, look, we're going to run a business together, but that's my little sidekick, man. He's awesome.
And he's only 14 and he's learning all these skill sets and experiences and actually rolling up his sleeves and getting the front row seat to really, lead in a business, build a business and do the work, whether he decides to do it or not, man, the skill sets, he'll be able to apply that, communicating to customers, learning the ins and outs of discipline and accountability and showing up and asking good questions. I mean, that's going to apply in the future for him. And it's just so beautiful. I wish that we saw more of that. So that's very cool that you guys are doing that, Nicole.
Thank you so much.
So with that being said, your wife and your mom, we've talked a lot about business. You're obviously driven, you're in alignment. How do you navigate being present at home while still running your business that demands so much of your time, energy, and effort?
Family first, always. plug them in with you with your business, make your business family oriented. But Sean, my family comes first. I make sure, and I have very strict rules. Like, I spent years working on weekends, working late nights, with sales, with, waitressing. And I just was never happy. So I put strict boundaries down, I don't work on weekends unless I absolutely have to, or if there's a person that really needs me to finish a job on that day, and that's perfectly fine. But I set those boundaries to make sure that I have time for my kids, because like I said, me growing up the way that I did, I want my kids to have better, and it's been more beneficial that way. So I have to put family first, business comes after, and then really we do everything as a team. I love spending time with them. I love being with them, and I love being with my husband. So we do a lot of things together. We work together. We do our businesses together. We play together, and we're a team. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I love that. And when I'm hearing you say, a lot of viewers, audience, and listeners, they struggle with those non-negotiables. And I did, in my entrepreneur journey as well. And I agree with you. You have to establish those non-negotiables and those boundaries.
Absolutely.
I'm curious with you, how do you communicate those boundaries or those non-negotiables to everybody that's trying to pull Nicole West's, time, your customers, your strategic partners, your contractors? How do you do that? How do you set those non-negotiables, and what do you do? Do you communicate it to them? Do you let them know in advance? Here's my standards. What do you do?
So honestly, I really haven't even had to do that. I just don't give them the option. I know it sounds kind of funny, but it's like, hey, these are the days that I'm available. If there's a job that needs to be done, Sunday is not an option. I have church on Sundays. Wednesday night's not an option. I'm a youth leader over at my church. I got to be there. So I just don't even put it down. If it's, There has been on rare occasions where I've had to go over to a customer's house on a Saturday. Saturdays are fine. We'll do it all together. But as long as it's not every Saturday and it's not interfering with my family time or time with the Lord, then I'm okay with that. So really, by setting your boundaries, you just don't give them the option. Like, hey, these are the days, pick one, whichever works best for you, and we can get it rolling.
Yeah, I love that. And I agree with you. In your personality, you come across as that as well. So people they're not going to try to take advantage of you, or they're not going to try to take your time because you don't allow it, is what I'm hearing you say. For some of our listeners, that don't have that strong personality, or they don't have, that skill set to where they are setting the standards and communicating that, and because that's what you're essentially doing. You're letting them know, like, I can do it this day, but I can't do it this day. You're communicating them up front. Have you, in my experience, what I have found, that if you lack that, then start there. Then communicate, like what you just, what I heard you say, and it sounds like you've already naturally done it, is you've communicated, these are my non-negotiables. These, maybe you haven't said it like that, but you were upfront with them. Like, I can do it this day, but I can't do it this day because, and here's why. I'm hearing you say, here's why, because church or family, church, God, that is all first. And when you tell people that and communicate that to them, they need to respect that. And if they don't respect it, then they're not aligned with your values and your beliefs. And unfortunately, you're going to have to distance yourself from them. Absolutely.
I mean, you're definitely right. So I have a strong personality, but I also don't like to disappoint people either. So I don't like to go, well, I get really like, I'm so sorry. So instead, I'm just like, hey, here's the days that are available. Pick one. And then that's it. So I don't even give those days as an option. Yeah. If they ask for those days, and I'm like, well, unfortunately, this and this. Now, if it's something dire, like, look, my house is flooding, like something crazy is going, mold starting to grow, that's a little different. That's more of an emergency situation. Yeah. And we're always willing to fluctuate as long as it doesn't interfere with church. We're here, or we'll send somebody else to do it that's available. We will find somebody who is okay with incorporating that into their schedule. But yeah, I really advise people to just very politely just say, hey, here are the days that I'm available. And if they're demanding something different, that's okay. God's going to give you something else if that's what needs to be done.
And that's a skill set Nicole. What I'm hearing you also say is that you're willing to work with them. You're willing to find a solution, even though it maybe doesn't work, and you're aligned with, okay, here, this day doesn't work, but this day doesn't work. I can plug you in. I can get another resource and see. And to me, you're showing vulnerability. You're trying to help them versus, no, I can't do it this day.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. And I think that's the biggest takeaway from a lot of emerging leaders and business owners is they think they have to do a hard stop. Nope, can't do it. Well, let's align together and share, like, well, what day works better for you? Let's get aligned with and on the same page. And then also, here's the why behind. So you can, if we're going to work together moving forward as customers, I do it with my customers, my family, my community, everybody. Right. And so if I don't design the life that I want to live, then I'm on somebody else's design is the way I look at it. And that's what I'm hearing you kind of view it as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Take us to a moment where you doubted yourself or faced major resistance in business, and how did you overcome it? We've talked a lot about boundaries, non-negotiables in different areas of life, but I want to you have a moment where you doubted yourself in business or faced that major resistance, and how did you overcome it?
Immediately when I started my business, oh my gosh, I was so unhappy with my previous job. I worked for a great company, doing sales. I helped, truck drivers get their papers filed. It was really awesome. I made great money, but man, Sean, I was so unhappy. Like, I was miserable. And so when I talked to my husband, I was like, look, I think we should do this. And he's like, hey, that's a great idea. And we just kind of brainstormed together, taking that first initial step and then quitting my job.